Before a new house became a home, it had to cross a boundary. Not a legal boundary, not a property line, a ritual one. In several Chinese building traditions, a beam could be painted red before it was raised, a doorway could receive a guardian image, and a house that had belonged to someone else might be ceremonially cleaned before a new family slept inside it. These practices were not a single national system, and they were not proof that invisible forces caused misfortune. They were ways of making a dangerous transition legible. A pile of timber became a house. A doorway became a controlled entrance. A former occupant's space became somebody else's home. This is the story of how building rituals made a house feel safe, and of what they reveal about the practical, social, and religious work that a home had to do. First, the beam. To a modern builder, a beam is a calculation, load, span, joinery, force. But in a house built by hand, the moment a main beam is raised is also a moment of exposure. The roofline becomes visible. The structure is no longer a collection of materials. It announces itself to neighbors, kin, weather, and the wider landscape. Accounts of beam raising in southern Chinese communities describe the ridgepole as the focus of a topping out ceremony. In the new territories of Hong Kong, for example, the pole could be painted red for luck before it was put in place. That detail matters. Red did not make the beam structurally stronger. It made the moment publicly different from ordinary carpentry. The red beam said, "This house is entering a new state." Local Chinese accounts preserve many further variations. Some describe red cloth, ritual words, feasting, or a master carpenter calling out blessings as the beam was set. Others attach symbolic meanings to pigments, animals, or the direction of the work. We should not flatten these into one timeless Chinese belief. They differed from region to region and from household to household. But their shared logic is clear. The beam was not only overhead wood, it was the point at which a building acquired a protective order. That order needed witnesses. Building rituals often gathered relatives, neighbors, craft workers, and householders around a short moment of coordinated action. A carpenter spoke. A family answered. Food or drink was shared. The work became public memory. This is easy to miss if we ask only whether the ritual worked. It worked socially because it turned a private construction project into an acknowledged home. It gave the builder prestige, the family a moment of recognition, and the gathered community a role in marking the change. The second threshold was the doorway. A wall separates inside from outside. A door does something more complicated. It permits movement. Guests, wind, debt collectors, relatives, animals, rumors, illness, good news, bad luck. Everything imagined as arriving at a home has to come through some opening. That is why doors attract concentrated symbolism in many cultures. In Chinese popular practice, door guardians became one of the most visible examples. They are often shown as armed or authoritative figures, placed in pairs on doors. Their job, in the language of the tradition, was to keep destructive forces out and proper life within. Today, door guardian prints can look decorative. Historically, their placement mattered as much as their image. They faced outward. They occupied the exact place where a visitor stopped, where a household decided whom to admit, and where the outside world met the family interior. The picture made protection visible. The same is true of other local protective objects. Some communities used fierce carved faces, ritual papers, inscriptions, colored cloth, or auspicious characters near an entrance. The objects did not all have the same origin or meaning. What links them is their position. A threshold is not neutral. It is where a house makes a decision about passage. This is also why modern viewers should resist calling every such object a superstition and moving on. The image does not have to be a literal weapon against ghosts to do real cultural work. It teaches everyone who approaches the house that this is a guarded place, a place with rules, memories, and a legitimate household inside. Then there is the problem of the old house. A new beam and a guarded door can mark a new building. But what happens when the building already has a history? Someone else cooked there, argued there, died there, raised children there, or left it empty. The walls may be intact, but the question of belonging remains. Ethnographic accounts from several parts of China record cleansing or settling rites when households moved into a space. The forms vary widely: offerings, incense, spoken invitations to ancestors, and acts of sweeping, sprinkling, or purification could define a new beginning. Here again, the point is not to pretend that every family performed the same ceremony. The point is that occupation itself could require explanation. A household was not simply a group of people behind a door. It was a network of ancestors, neighbors, memories, obligations, and expectations attached to a particular place. A settling ritual drew a line through that network. It could welcome the new household's ancestors, acknowledge the old ones, or announce that the home now had a different caretaker. In social terms, it turned an ambiguous space into a named and accountable one. There is a useful way to see the three thresholds together. The beam orders the structure above you. The door orders the traffic around you. The settling ritual orders the history beneath and within you. Above, outside, inside. Three directions of uncertainty, each answered with a different action. That pattern does not belong only to China. Buildings around the world have been marked with protective signs, foundation deposits, blessings, images, and ceremonies. What makes the Chinese examples especially vivid is the way practical building work and ritual meaning can be staged at the same physical point: the timber, the threshold, the room. This does not mean ritual replaced engineering. Traditional builders needed skilled joinery, sound materials, labor, planning, and knowledge of climate. A red beam could not repair bad wood. A guardian print could not stop a leaking roof. But construction alone could not answer every question people had about safety. Who belongs here? What enters? What must be remembered? What do we do with risk that cannot be measured before the first night inside? Ritual supplied a language for those questions. Even now, traces of that language remain. A new home may be blessed. A doorway may carry a lucky character. A family may choose an auspicious day to move. These actions are not identical to older practices, and they should not be romanticized as unchanged survivals. But they preserve the same basic intuition. A house is never only an object. It is a structure, certainly. It is also a boundary that has to be made trustworthy. That is what these rituals made visible. They did not turn timber into magic. They turned a building site into a place where a household could say, with witnesses and with confidence, "This space is now ours, and it is safe enough to live in."